The reality of the early church was that the Spirit called, equipped, and also challenged the disciples in many, many ways. So first of all, called. Jesus went to the seashore, found Peter and Andrew, went to Matthew the tax collector, and called them. And in that spirit, the disciples felt inspired to follow Jesus. How many of us, if we came up to you, would say, "Oh, by the way, would you follow me for the rest of your life and abandon everything that you have now?" Probably not. Or at least come back to me in a year and we'll talk. And then get a good attorney and a few other things. Because that's so difficult for them to do, and yet the Spirit inspires them to leave everything behind and follow Jesus. They are called and they are equipped. And so Jesus gives them His Spirit so that they can go out into the world and do exactly what He called them to do. That is, to preach the good news. I'm sure when Jesus ascended back to the Father, they weren't sure what to do at all. Jesus had left them no guide to follow, no script, no text, nothing. But the Spirit comes to them and inspires them and pulls them out of the locked room that they're in to go out into the world and to spread that good news. First of all, they're locked in that room, that upper room, in fear. But now the Spirit comes to open up those locked doors and to push them out into a world that some will, to give a message that some will accept and that some will not. And ultimately, it will mean their death. They will be martyrs for the message that they give to the people around them. But still, nonetheless, that Spirit fills them and gives them the words that they need in order to go out into the world and spread that good news. And then they are challenged in many different ways. I think first of all of Peter and Paul. As you read through the Acts of the Apostles, they are the ones who figure the most in that book. First of all, there is Paul, who is absolutely sure that he is doing the right thing by persecuting the Christian people. He's on a bad path, but ultimately the Lord will call him off of that path. But the thing is, Peter and Paul both have their long history of teaching, over 2,000 years of believing we're the chosen people. All of those other folks, those are the pagans. Those are the unclean people. We won't have anything to do with them. We'll just preach Jesus' message to other Jewish people. And then Peter has a vision. And what gets said to him in that vision? That the Spirit is coming not just to the Jewish people, but also those nasty Gentile people as well. And all of their thoughts have to change, have to shift, because the Spirit is inspiring them to move now in a different direction. Also, Peter has a vision as well. There is a vision that he has of the unclean animals. And being a good Jewish boy, he tells the Lord, I am not going to eat those unclean animals. And basically, God says to him in this vision, eat what you want. And believe me, God would not have made pork taste so great if he would like ban people from eating it. It's too good. Bacon, come on. But anyway, all respect to our Jewish folks. Anyway, so the thing is, for 2,000 years, the Jewish people did not eat those things, and now God seems to be changing his mind. And it probably blows Peter and Paul's minds like crazy. But God is calling them to a different place than he did before. And they have to go on with that. How do they deal with that? Something that is so ingrained in them. These are the rules and the regulations. And now, you know what, we're going to explode those a little bit. And it's the Spirit that does it. I would imagine that was very, very difficult for them. Fast forward to our own time. We also are called, equipped, and challenged in many different ways. First of all of us are called in one way or another. Single life, priesthood, marriage, whatever. We're all called to follow in different ways, just like the apostles were called many years ago. Because each and every person is called for the building up of the church. Each and every person is called so that we can be an example to each other. And so we are called in our own day and time to be people of faith, to be people of hope, to be people of love for those who are around us. And we're equipped also for that. On the day, on wedding days, I'll go to the back and talk to the bride and the groom and ask them, are you nervous? And of course they say, yes, they're nervous. They should be. Why? They're taking on a great call. But the Spirit will strengthen them. They may not know it, they may not understand it, but the Spirit will strengthen them. Same thing with priests or anybody else. We get a little nervous wondering, oh geez, where is this going to go? Nobody knows. But the Spirit will strengthen us. The Spirit will be with us always. Then also too, we are challenged. Once again, just like Peter and Paul were challenged to change their minds of, well, we've always done it this way, and we can't do it any other way. The Spirit is calling them now in a different direction. And I would imagine it would be difficult for them, but it's a Latin phrase in the church's lexicon of docilitas spiriti, that is the docility of the Spirit. Are we open to go where the Spirit leads us? And that could be a pretty scary thing. I think of St. Peter in the boat, and Jesus is walking on the water. You know the story. And Jesus says, sure, come out onto the water. None of the other 11 were crazy enough to put a foot out on that water. But Peter was. He had that docilitas spiriti, that ability to say, you know what? I'm not sure where this is going to go. I might end up sinking. But you know what? I think the Lord will take care of me. And puts his foot out and starts walking. We also, too, in our own lives can be challenged. And it can scare us. And we may be asked to do something different than we've never done before. To experience different things that we've never experienced before. But that Spirit can strengthen us. That Spirit can allow us to be open to new opportunities and new things to learn. And we pray that that Spirit can always inspire us. So once again, when we celebrate Pentecost, we're not celebrating something that only happened 2,000 years ago, but something that continues now, because we have received the Spirit of our baptism and confirmation. We also receive the Spirit in communion and all of the other sacraments that we have celebrated. We receive the Spirit when we pray each day. We receive the Spirit when we come here on a Sunday. And that Spirit is always ready to strengthen us and give us new life and new hope. So that no matter where we may go, no matter what path we may follow, we can always be confident, knowing that that Spirit is going to guide us, will protect us, will challenge us and lead us into places that we may be a little uncomfortable with, but yet at the same time, that Spirit will guide us along, and we can always remain confident. And so as we come here today, we may be in a number of different places. Maybe there's an illness that we're experiencing, or maybe somebody is just about to retire, or maybe they have retired and maybe retirement isn't really going so well for them. I find that hard to believe, but I would think but it's tough. It's a difficult transition. It's a difficult change. And no matter what may be happening in our lives, we pray for the gift of the Spirit. That the Spirit may enlighten us, to open our minds, to open our hearts, so that we can be ready to accept any challenge, knowing that God will be with us and God will guide us. And for that, we can always be confident. We can always be filled with hope.